He punched me a couple of times, and then just mainly his drinking and smashing the place up. And then he did my oldest son, I've got to say, he tried to kick him as well, and he was only little because he suffered with bad asthma. So I put him into my bed because I had another one on the bottle because it was like 11 months difference between them. So, and he kicked him out in the bed.
I lived with it for about 4 years, and I had 2 children, and I decided one night that if I didn't get out, I probably wasn't going to live for very long, and that's about the truth of it.
But I'm sorry, I'm angry, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. You know, I won't, here's some flowers, here's some chocolates, let's go on holidays, something like that, you know. So they see the nice side and they're trying to fix it because they're investing a lot in this.
Violence against women has become an issue of international concern, and domestic violence is one of the biggest issues. Research constantly shows that more women than men are or have been the victim of violence and abuse from an intimate partner or former partner. Domestic abuse against women is perpetrated across a range of relationships, including families, sexual relationships, friendship networks, and also professional relationships.
According to Offices for National Statistics, in the latest figures from 2012 to 13, it is being estimated that around 1.2 million women have suffered domestic violence and 330 have been sexually assaulted. Domestic and sexual violence have often been hidden away behind closed doors, with the victims suffering in silence.
The biggest question that arises in domestic violence cases is, why would a woman want to live with an abuser, or why do they return back to them after they have left?
I think one of the issues is children, you know, where there's children involved, it's not so easy just to leave. And also, often, you know, women have nowhere to go. You know, if you don't have any money, you're reliant on the partner for income, however small it might be. You know that if you leave, you might be homeless. So you stay, even if the situation is not good. So, yeah. And I think, you know, organisations that offer women support to leave, you know, safe houses to go to, can be very helpful because it gives the woman the option of leaving then, whereas before she might have thought she had no option, so she stayed.
Chetna is one of the domestic violence victims. She shifted to United Kingdom after her marriage as her husband was already working here. She always had dreamed of having the most loving husband and the most happening marriage, just like any other girl. But unfortunately, her married life was totally opposite than what she actually wanted.
Ours was an arranged marriage. When I first met him before marriage, he seemed to be a really nice guy. I had no idea he's going to be this alcoholic and abusive.
Chetna was 6 months pregnant when her husband pushed her towards the door in anger just because he didn't get his dinner on time, and she had to lose her child. That's when she decided to talk about it. She shared her feelings with the doctor in the hospital, and the members of the hospital helped her contact her family and police.
Since there was 6 years of marriage, it was not easy for me to forget all that in just one go. Even after I went back to India, I had a lot of problems communicating with people, and I used to get all those nightmares with all those bruises on my face, the miscarriage and everything.
It is complexity, it is heartbreaking, but it's also a harsh reality. We can't change what happened to other victims of domestic violence, but we are not powerless to prevent these from happening to our families, neighbors, mothers, sisters, and to ourselves as well.
Responsibility of domestic violence lies with the perpetrator, because if perpetrators stopped abusing, then domestic violence would stop. So that's number one. Yeah. So that would be the key, obviously, but it's very difficult. It's not going to happen. So I think it has to be a number of different forms of support that has to be provided, whether it is, you know, talking to neighbours and saying, you know, that, you know, if you ever see anything like this, as a good neighbour you should be raising it or reporting it. It's making sure that the police, when they respond to an incident, that they get it right. It's to ensure that the government has the right laws in place.
The difference between men's and women's experiences of domestic violence are greater when asked about their lifetime experiences. Female victims of intimate partners experienced more severe violence and control with more serious psychological consequences than did male victims, and women are much more likely to be fearful of their partners.
The way we work, we would say that they go through 5 stages. In the first stage, when they're in denial about what's happening, they're not going to leave, and they're not even going to ask for help very often. But then they'll go into a stage where the abuse is getting worse. They tend to try and adapt their behaviour to stop the abuse, but they don't want to leave because the abuser will still be showing their nice side. They know deep down that he's an abuser, but it's because of their emotions and their feelings and their strength, actually, because it's strong people that go through domestic violence, not weak ones.
Why should a woman leave her home? Why should she leave her network of friends and family, her children's schools? It's a very hard decision for any woman to make. And I think statistics do suggest that women will leave their partners a number of times before they are able to feel independent and free from violence.
Dickie James is the Chief Executive of Staffordshire Women's Aid, and she is also a domestic violence survivor. She had the courage to move away from abuse and renew for help.
It took me a lot of courage to move away from that relationship, and I had an enormously supportive family. I was very fortunate. But afterwards, when I became stronger and rebuilt my confidence and went to university, I decided that I wanted to do something about domestic violence because I was so conscious of how damaging it was to both me and my children. And so I came to this organisation first of all as a volunteer.
47 years old June had the most unfortunate life. She had been the victim of domestic abuse, not just once, but twice. In the early age of 17, she met her first love. She left her studies and even the family, who was 5 years elder than her. Initially, everything was amazing for June, but soon after few months, things started to change. Her loving, caring man turned into an aggressive and over-possessive.
He used to go, just try it, and ended up getting really, really drunk. Then I didn't drink because I was so young. I've never really drank anything. And then his mates, he did used to try and say to me, which I didn't say before, he used to try and say to me, you know, my mate fancies you, would you go to bed with one of them and everything like that.
Your friend?
His friends, because he used to bring back males, friends
so
to drink.
His friends to sleep with you?
Yeah.
And he asked you for that?
Yeah. I was just so drunk, you know, they left basically. Then when I come home one night, it was really nice, really good mood. And he say, do you want to go to the pub, you know, for a drink, a meal or something? And I was like, yeah, okay. And I thought, we've gone really nice. So we went to the pub and he bought the first drink and we was chatting, everything was fine, perfect night. And then he said, do you want to go and get the second drink? And I said, okay. So I went up the bar, asked the barman, he went, oh, do you want your usual, you know, for the last time? And I went, okay, thanks. And that was all that we said. And he'd come over.
That was
just the conversation. Yeah, just saying, do you want, yeah. And because I think I smiled, because he come out, my boyfriend come over then, he says, why are you chatting to him, why are you smiling at him? And it's normal reaction just to smile, you know, when you're talking. And the next thing I knew, I couldn't see nobody around me. all I could see was like
All of a
red.
sudden?
Yeah, it just went black. Everything went black.
Just after that?
Yeah. And I heard in the background people like screaming a little bit and things like that. And I thought, why they? I couldn't see no one, but I wasn't sort of scared. It was really mixed emotions. Really, I didn't know what was going on. And then all of a sudden I said, I can't see. Why can't I see? And then next thing I knew, the manager took me in, and he said he'd put a glass in your face, but stay calm. And I was like, oh my God, you know, I was like, well, I can't see anything. And he'd run off. People did try and stop him, but he knew which way he was going, I think, because they said he'd gone certain ways. Of course, the ambulance was called, and I went to hospital. And the good thing out of that, I suppose, is I've been reunited with my family. My family come down. My mum come in and she just held my hand. My dad walked in, but he walked back out. And then I knew, because he normally would come up and kiss me, and he'd go, "You all right, give me a cuddle." And I looked on his face, I knew something was wrong, and I thought, is it me? What? He just looked at me. So then something triggered in my head, I need to look at my face. And the doctor's going to me, no, it's probably best not time to look at it at the moment.
You wanted to see?
But I wanted to see because I knew, I could read my dad, I knew something was wrong, you know, he'd walked out. And I had a look, and all my face was a right mess. It was all bruised everywhere, both sides, cuts everywhere. All my eyes was up, I couldn't see nothing out of it, just a little bit, you could see a little bit of opening in your eye. And it didn't look like me. You know, totally didn't look like me.
After the police complaint and investigation, June got to know that the man for whom she left everything and suffered the abuse was a criminal and was also married with 3 children.
Just went out basically, got my confidence up a bit, and we ended up getting married and having 3 children. Yeah. So, and I thought, you know, I'd be happy. It was nice at first, and then it started getting a few more signs like.
June was shattered after everything happened to her. She went into depression and also lost the confidence to talk to anyone or even look at anybody. After a while, she met a family friend who gave her an enormous support to live her life again. This time, she thought things would change or even get better, but it didn't really happen that way.
He come back drunk, and then he started, over the time, because I was with him for 5 years, he'd like smash up bits in the house. One time he pulled the banister rail off the wall. That's how angry he was. And then I called the police on him that time, but then he went. Then he'd come back. Then he'd work and spend all the money, go out on a Friday, spend the money. I didn't have nothing for food. And then he'd get really violent and punching me and pulling my hair and biting me. And then it'd be like that.
Very often when a woman leaves a violent relationship, she's at a particularly vulnerable time in her life, particularly if she has children. And that makes her vulnerable to another abuser. Our police force now recognise that we have serial abusers or serial perpetrators of domestic violence who know when someone is in a very vulnerable position.
Someone needs you to be their voice. Speak out against domestic violence.